Thank you all for coming back from the lunch break. Council, shall we continue? Are we ready?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. We are ready. The witness is being brought into the hearing room. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jallow. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How was your break?
It was okay.
Yeah. I'd like to remind you that you're still under oath.
Right.
Prior to the lunch break, you were talking about an event at Kanilai, and you mentioned that you were asked, meaning you and the other winners, to be at Kanilai for 3 days, from the 29th to the 31st of January.
Right.
So you counted it as 29, 30, 31st. And it was in order for Jammeh to hold this annual farmers market where he would look at the produce of the farmers and buy them.
Right.
You said, you talked about what happened upon arrival. You also talked about a gamo that was held, if I'm not mistaken, on the second night.
Right.
And you said that at some point, Jammeh himself left, that is the former president, Yahya Jammeh, left to pray Fajr.
Right.
And after that, you were all able to then go home
Right.
and finally sleep. So
Right.
this would have been around 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what happened the day after that?
The day after that, in the morning, we had Jimby had done shopping, or someone else did, but she brought some food stuff, and we cooked in the corridor, in the veranda of the house that we were living in, all of us. I think we cooked either bennechin or mbahal, but it was a one-pot meal that we cooked, and we had a whole conversation was going on, just a group of girls sitting together, and Jimby generally had a keen interest in somehow throwing in questions of kan mo nekk sen fari, as in who are your boyfriends, you know, but in a joking way, like, oh, yen, you girls. So it was a conversation around that, and of course most people were trying to avoid it and laugh it off and talk about other things. Before we also finished, or we dispersed from there, I remember going to the washroom, and there was a moment that I had with Jimby where she told me that we should go shopping when we get back, and that she wants to get really close to me, and it will be nice to go and buy some stuff. And on that day, there was some kind of students' march past that was done for the president, and some other event that happened before we left back for Banjul, Serekunda. Yeah.
So during that entire period that you were at Kanilai,
Right.
did you have any private conversations with the president or any personal interactions? Because you mentioned that whenever he saw you, he would act forgetful, as though he couldn't remember your name.
Right.
But did you have any actual conversations?
No. My whole time in Cunning Life for the 3 days, I've never seen him personally or privately. I've never been to the residence without the rest of the girls. The little interaction we had was when I was asked to move from the back seat to the front of the seat next to him, and he was saying something about Bulen Finella, or like, don't sleep, and that. That is the only verbal interaction that he was actually referring to me. Other than that, for the whole 3 days, there was no private meeting or conversation with him.
Did you, as a group, go to the residence at any point during those 3 days?
Yes, when we went for this gamo, that was at his residence.
That was the only time?
Yes.
So after your conversation with Jimbe Jammeh, where she said we should go shopping, nothing else happened at Kanilai. You said you left Kanilai.
Yeah.
Did you eventually hear from Jimbe after that regarding the shopping?
Yes, when we came back from Kanilai, she did reach out to me um, to be picked up by Landing, and that I will meet with her at Westfield Junction, the junction that leads the Kairaba Junction on Westfield. Yeah.
And would this be Landing Sanyang?
Yes,
Same
the
driver.
same driver. Yeah.
Do you recall how many days after your return from Kanilai this took place? How many days after?
A day or two.
Sorry?
A day or two.
A day or two.
Somewhere around there.
So can you tell us what happened when you got to Westfield?
We got there, and Jimby was also there, coming from Banjul, I would presume. And then we walked on that Kairaba Avenue Road. No, we were in the car, and the car dropped us at Ayub Furnitures first. I think it's Ayub Furnitures on Kairaba Avenue. And then we went in and we looked at a few chairs, and she said that she didn't see the leather that she would rather prefer, and she asked me to look around too as to what color I would want. And I remember telling her that not very bright colors because we have a lot of kids. We moved from that store. We drove back to another store. It is on your left-hand side on Kairaba Avenue, and I think it is the first furniture store, either an Indian store or a Nar store, but a furniture store. And that is where we ended up buying a closet for a bedroom with a bed. So that is a bed set. I remember her taking out about $75,000 to give to the guy. Also a couch set for a living room and a table, and they were brown in color. And I also think the table came with a carpet, yeah. So this was to be sent for delivery later in the evening, and they're gonna put it in a car. And then also went to a store on the road. I don't remember, but it's a clothing store all on the Kairaba Avenue Road. And she bought a few clothes from there. There was a white top, there was a dress, and a short dress that was to my knees, and there was another dress that went all the way down, and a blazer, I remember too. So she bought them. I'm not sure how much she paid for them, but we did buy that, and then we headed home.
So who chose the clothes that she bought, presumably for you, right?
Yes. So she will pick it up and she will ask me if I liked it, and I will say yes or no.
Did she tell you where the money for shopping came from?
No, she didn't.
Did she tell you why she was taking you shopping?
She didn't, but on that day, but the day before in Kanilai, when she said that we should go shopping, she said something along the lines of, "Winners do get a lot of things." Yeah.
But no indication as to where the money was coming from or who was funding that.
I think she did make mention of the money coming from Yaya Jame. Yeah.
So after you bought a lot of furniture and some clothes,
Right.
you said that you then went home. So the furniture was
Right.
supposed to be delivered, but the clothes you took with you. Is that right?
Yes.
What happened after that?
The furniture was delivered at the house. Yeah.
When that furniture arrived at your house, what did your parents say? What was their reaction?
I called my mom on my way before I got there because I don't want her to be surprised, and she didn't know that this arrangement has been made. And she did ask Jimby, is this part of the package? And I remember my mom telling me that she asked someone at the ministry, I don't remember who said that when the girls win, what they get is not systematic. It's not like written on a paper that this is what you get and that's what you don't get. It is different from every winner, and it's different every year. So Jimby just made mention that it is just a gift, and it is part of the gifts that you get for winning. Yeah.
So your understanding was that the president has given this money, and this was because you were the winner.
I believed that because I did not have an example of how to compare to the other winners before me, because I do not know what the other winners got and did not get. So whatever was brought onto the table, and that it was because I won, I assume it was part of it. Maybe other people got it, maybe they didn't, or they even had more. I wasn't sure. So, yeah.
Apart from the furniture stores that you mentioned, as well as the clothing store,
Right.
did you go anywhere else with Jimbe prior to going home?
We had an incident at Q Cell where she tried to activate my Apple phone that we were given. So I did not have an Apple ID at the time because I never had an iPhone.
Maybe start by telling us how that came about, the decision to go to QCell and...
Right. So I could not do much with my phone because I did not activate the phone. As you know, with iPhones, you need Apple ID to activate it, and I did not have one. So Jimby suggested that she knew someone at QCell who does phone stuff, and he works there, so the process would be fast. And then we went to QCell to do that.
What is the name of the individual that you saw when you went to QCell to unlock your phone?
Jimby referred to him as Patrick Jaju.
So when you arrived at QCell, what did Patrick Jaju do to your phone?
He took the phone and then he started to set it up. He first asked me if I had an Apple ID, and I said no. And he asked if I could create one in the moment. I said no, and he said, okay, don't worry. I have an Apple ID that I hardly used, or I haven't used much. I will use it to like unlock the phones and then activate it, and you can use it. At the time, I did not know that Apple IDs are not just to unlock a phone, but also it gives you access to information on that phone or to the iCloud of that phone. But he used his, whether it was his or someone else, but he used an Apple ID to unlock the phone that I was going to be using, and then activated my SIM card, and then the whole process that you do. Yeah.
I know you said that at that point you didn't know that someone logging into your phone with an Apple ID would give them access to things like your cloud and other information.
Right.
But what made you comfortable enough to allow him to do that with your phone? Was there anything in particular that made you comfortable enough?
Right. So at the time, especially with phones that we do not understand, you let people activate it for you, or if you bought a new phone and it is locked, mostly it is locked. There is this thing that happens in the Gambia where you have to unlock, I guess, international phones, or there is for you to be able to access to use that phone. So to me, it was something similar he was doing. He was unlocking the phone and setting it up for me to use. Not that he was putting in an Apple ID, and I did not understand what the function of Apple ID means, like in details, as in it could save my information and pictures and all of that. I didn't know, so I was comfortable with that. Yeah.
Did Patrick Jaju appear to know Jimbe?
Yes.
What gave you that impression?
They greeted each other, like how is work. They went into conversations that you will have someone that you're familiar with. When she walked in, she did not just meet Patrick as what, because there were so many tellers at the counter. She specifically asked for him, and he was right there, and they greeted each other. Nakam naka ligay gej na la gis. So that made me know that they kind of know each other. I don't know to what extent though.
So after your phone was unlocked at QCell, do you recall if what you used at that point was a SIM card that you owned previously, or was it a new SIM card?
I think it's the same SIM card. It was just moved from my old phone to the new one.
And what happened to your old phone?
I gave it to my dad, I think.
So it was after this trip that you went back home, correct?
Yes.
And you said the furniture was delivered.
It was delivered.
Was it the same day or the next day?
The same day.
The same day.
In the evening. Yeah.
Did you have any other discussions with Jimbe on that day?
No, I can't recall.
Did she arrive? Did she enter the house when you arrived?
Partly, I think. Not that she sat down, but I think she came in, yeah.
Did she have a conversation with any other member of your family apart from you?
My mother, who was questioning if this was part of the package.
And from what you said, her response was, yes, it is.
Yes.
So what happened after that? What was the next interaction that you had with either Jimbe or the president at the time?
So now we are into February. We are still into February, so February 17th. Now this is the day before the Independence Day, which is the 18th of February. There's this whole preparation and celebration of the independence ceremony. So a night before the independence celebration was an event they called a reception that also happened at a hotel. And on that day, the band called Morgan Heritage from the Caribbean were performing. And I took this picture with them around 11:42, so we got there before that. So we spent that whole night. We were basically standing. There were tables with drinks on it. And there were some of the girls, some were picked to be ushers. I wasn't part of them. But there were some of the girls that were part of the usher team that was ushering that event. Interacted with the girls. The chaperone, Auntie Isa, from the gender department was there the whole time. I did not see the president personally. He was not present in that crowd. It was just artists performing and us being there. So we went home, and before that, in between, there is also this whole sewing of asobis, because we had several asobis that we have sewn for the event. So at 12:16 on February 18, which is the Independence Day, we are already at the stadium. We had a Yaya Jammeh asobi on.
What is a Yaya Jammeh asobi?
It is a clothing with Yaya Jammeh's face on it. It was APRC clothing that a lot of people were wearing. It was the theme of that event.
I'm not sure if you've said this already, but where was the reception held?
At a hotel, I think Coco Ozone again. Yeah.
And you said you took another picture at 12:16. Is that a.m.?
No, that's on PM. On
p.m.
February,
So
yes.
on the 18th itself,
Yes.
in the afternoon. Did anything else happen on that day, the actual Independence Day celebration?
It was all general. We were sitting behind. The normal independence celebration that happens went on, the parade and everything, and we were there the entire time. And when it was time to go home, we went home. We saw Jimby, of course, who said hi to us, but there was no interaction with her deeply or with the president or any of the officials there. And we did not have any official role, but we were present.
And that event would have been at
the stadium,
stadium.
In Bakau. Yeah.
So after the Independence Day celebration, when was the next time that you had any interaction with either the president or Jimbe Jame?
So on that day of the celebration, to note, on the 18th of February, after the whole day celebration of the parade, we also had dinner that same night. Our table, us and the girls, again, we wore the same clothing, but this was our own, a dinner dress. So at 12:23, we spent the whole night there because there were fireworks that were going on. So on that day, I did see the president, and the first lady was also present. And I remember that day Sona Jabate was performing. And it was after her performance that the president and the Audleys were saying that they're going to the back where you have the beach, and they will do fireworks. So we were all standing there with the president in the front and the first lady, and fireworks went on until about 4:22. We were still there at the fireworks. Yeah, so February 20th, which is also another day after the 19th, there was a wrestling match at Makati Square where we were also invited. And a jamboree was also happening. So we were sitting where the VIP sits, the president in the front. There was musical performance and also wrestling between local wrestlers. That also went on until 3 a.m. again with all of the other girls.
And where was this particular event held?
Makati Square in Banjul.
So you told us earlier that as a result of many events and activities you had to attend, which went throughout the night into the early hours of the morning, you started to miss a lot of days at school.
Right.
What happened after February 20th?
February 20th all the way into the morning because we were still at the wrestling. On March 26th, what I can remember was I got an acceptance letter from one of the universities that I've applied to, which I applied to 4 days after I first met the president. So fast forward to May 25th, which is a...
Sorry, just before May 25th. What led you to actually start applying for the scholarships? You mentioned that, of course, one of the conditions you had to fulfill was to finish your project and submit it. But did anyone tell you, okay, go ahead and actually apply for schools because you would get a scholarship?
Right. Again, as I said earlier, we did not have the conversation around that. I applied, as I said, I've been applying for universities before I even joined the pageant. But I applied for it looking at the time span of when the application might be accepted and all the processes that you have to do with your passport size picture, that by the time it is either accepted or not accepted, I would be further into the project or done with it, and I would be able to work on the university instead of waiting until I am done with the project to start fresh and have to wait, because we are already in May, and the meeting happened in January, so March, April, May. So that's like 4 to 5 months in between before they responded to me. So that was the time gap I was calculating, but I didn't apply because I was asked to by either the ministry or the president himself.
So to be clear, up until that point, so
Right.
from when you won the pageant up until, let's say, May 25th,
Right.
no one had spoken to you about a scholarship or even the fact that you should apply for
No.
anything?
What happened in between all of this that was an interaction with the Ministry of Education was that, apart from the events that we went to, was that we were supposed to provide pictures. Now, it wasn't explained to us what these pictures were for, but we were supposed to provide a full-length picture, and we took the pictures ourselves. I called a local photographer in our neighborhood who came and took a picture of me. The other girls did the same, and we are supposed to bring in the pictures at the gender department at the Ministry of Education.
Do you recall when this took place? When were you asked to take full-length pictures?
I do not remember the dates. I know it happens in the midst of all this.
Do you by any chance know if it happened before or after Independence Day?
I'm not
No.
sure. Yeah.
But it would have been sometime in 2015 itself.
Yes, sometime in 2015.
And what were you told about who had requested the full-length photographs? Did they tell you who had requested it or why it was really being requested?
No. What was said was that, the State House needs a full-length pictures of all of you. The question of why was never explained.
At that point, did you wonder why?
At that point, no, I can't remember how I took it at that time. But I was thinking is in relations to us. For a second, I thought it was in relations to the scholarship, but I couldn't see how it fit into that because it was not a passport size picture.
So apart from that, you started to mention the 25th of May,
Right.
2015. Tell us what happened on that day.
I think the president's birthday is May 25th or May around there, but there was a celebration at the State House. Yes, his birthday celebration. Was it the day before or on that day? But on the May of 25th at 11:22 p.m., that's when I took this picture. And we were going to the State House. There's a big tent that was rented on the outside in the lawns of the State House. And then we went there, and I remember the daughter of the late Lucky Dube from the Caribbean performed there. And there were speeches, and there were tables, and there were dinners, and all that. Again, it was with me and the girls, and with Auntie Aisha, the chaperone. I did not have an interaction with the president on that day.
So after the 25th of May, when was the next time that you either interacted with the president or spoke to Jimbe Jambe?
Just later around that same time, it was definitely before the end of May. Jimby asked me to go to visit the president again. So this time around, the same process. Landing came and picked me up at home. We went, and King Papa was there. My bag was taken as usual with my phone. Again, we were in a different room. this time around, but also a family room because the pictures of the then First Lady were also hanged in that room.
You said this was before the end of May, is that correct?
Yes, so
So a few days
20
after the birthday
a
celebration.
few days after the birthday celebration.
Do you recall around what time landing came for you?
It's always in the evenings. This one was also a bit earlier, sometime around 9. Yeah.
And again, we're referring to the same driver, Landing Sanyang.
Yes.
So when you arrived at State House, you said it was a different residence or a different room.
A different room in the same residence.
So by the same residence, you mean the family residence that you went to?
The first
On
and the
the
second time, yeah.
Okay. So tell us what happened when you arrived there.
My bags and my phones were taken as usual. I got in with Jimby, and this time around we waited for 2 hours before he came in the room. And then he came in. On that day, the conversation was...
Sorry, who is he?
The ex-president.
Please continue.
He was very much interested. I think before he said what he was planning to say on that day, he wanted to know my perspective on certain things. On that day, he was interested in what I think about the APRC, and also if my father was part of any political party. He was also interested in if I listened to Fatou radio and if I listened to the Freedom Panderi, to which I replied to him that I do not listen to that and I hardly have data on my phone. But those were questions that he was very interested in on that particular night.
Before you saw the president, how long did you wait?
2 hours.
About 2 hours.
Yeah.
And when you had that conversation, was there anything going on in particular? What was the purpose of your visit, or was it over a meal, or were you just sitting in the living room watching TV? What was the
So
setting?
it was on the basis of the last time. Remember when he said that I will get money for the project, but he will call me to come and get the money. So this day was apparently the day that I was supposed to receive the money for the project. So that's what I was there for. But again, the TV was on, and we were having this whole other conversation. Yeah.
So apart from asking you questions about your political support or affiliation, including that of your family, as well as asking if you listen to or frequent Fatou Network, Freedom newspaper, what else did he talk about?
He did go back to my age again. Am I sure that I am the age that I say I am? He then also went on to ask, what do I think of marriage? And we also got into, I remember, conversations around feminism and, what do I think about it? And in between that, a call was also made. It's either he called the wife or the wife called him, and they were on the phone. The same normal exchanges of good night. I don't know where she was. They spoke on the phone, and then he hung up the phone. And when he hung up the phone casually, he said to me, okay, let's get this over it. Would you want to marry me? Right? Also, as casual as Yaya Jammeh can be. So I didn't ask him, as in, you mean to marry you? He said yes. Now, as a lot of people, the expectation in this moment is I'm supposed to be excited. There is no way that this was not the best news of my life. The dynamics here of what put me back, it's not because someone wanted to marry me. It's because from the very second that I walked into a room with Yaya Jammeh, he did not in any shape or form show me that he is interested in me, he likes me, or said anything in that regard. From the very second we interacted, he showed me that he was a father. A father figure is what he showed me, and I've gotten comfortable around him within that perimeter. So when he asked me if he wanted to marry me, in order to be excited, in order to want to, it must have been something that I have processed along the way or seen along the way. But I was set aback because a father has just broken what it is that we have kind of built. So I thought it was a joke, and I thought, oh, maybe he's testing me. Because Yajambe has told me time and time again to not concentrate on men, to not mind men, to concentrate on my career and my education. So to me, I thought it was a test, especially after talking, immediately from talking with his wife. He went on to say that, but you're beautiful. And then I realized, okay, he actually meant what he said. I said to him, I do not want to get married right now. And it's not because of you or anyone, is that I do not intend to be married at this age. And me and him had conversation about early marriages and what women should be doing, and we've had those conversations. So that is what I was trying to reiterate. And then he said, there is nothing wrong with getting married to a man that is taking care of you, that is supporting you, to say.
In what language were you having this conversation?
Mostly English. Mostly English.
And so after you responded that it wasn't about him,
Right.
you just weren't ready to get married, what did he say? What was his reaction?
Before that, he asked to who was my boyfriend, and then I remember asking, oh, I didn't answer it. I kind of snooped the question in a way, and then he said that, you know, I am the president, right? And I can know whatever I want to know in this country. But we didn't go further into that, and he did not insist. But before I left, before I got my money that he sent Kim Papa or Jimby to go and get, he said that maybe I did not hear him right, and then I need to go and think about it. And he had this smug smile on his face, like you're not hearing me, you do not understand what this is, or you think it is some type of a joke. But he did tell me to go and think about it. Yeah.
How did you feel now that the conversation had clearly taken a different angle altogether? Initially, you said you felt he was a father figure, he gained your trust.
Right.
There are a few things that maybe made you apprehensive along the way,
Right.
but you were still comfortable. At this point, having had a marriage proposal made and questions being asked about whether you have a boyfriend and the fact that you were told, go and think about it, how did you feel at that point?
I kind of felt a little deceived, and that I have lost this father figure sentiment in a way, because deep down, no matter what I told myself, deep down I understood that whatever it is that I thought this was, or whatever it is that I built this around, is not what it is. And there was so much trust and so much confidence. So in that moment, it was just like, oh, to summarize it, I was disappointed, but that was me deep down. But on the outside, I was trying to convince myself, and I said to myself, oh, like he's just testing you. He just wants to see, if you are having an interest, if what he's been telling you has been getting into your head, or that's what I did tell myself. So there was this two sides to what I was feeling.
So after this conversation, you said either Jimbe or King Papa, someone gave you the money that had been promised to you for your project.
Right.
Do you recall how much money was given to you?
So I don't know if you remember in our second meeting when I told him that I had $60,000 budgeted, and then he said that they could increase that amount to $100,000. But when King Papa brought in the money this time around for the same said project, it was $50,000.
And you're certain that the person who brought in the money was King Papa? Because you said earlier that either Jimbe or King Papa went to get the money.
One of them, because they were the two present there, apart from Yaya Jame and myself. So did King Papa bring it from wherever the money normally is, or Jimbe did? I'm not sure. But one thing I know for sure is the Oddleys normally carry either his money, or they're likely to go get where the money is than Jimbe herself. So I don't know who brought it from the outside, but the money was given to me.
When the money was given to you, was anything said at that point?
Right. So also this is where it becomes ironic, because the money was supposed to be for the project. Again, way less than what I have proposed and what he has proposed. But when the money was given to me, he's like, oh, it is for the bother of your coming. But he said it in Wolof, that's why it comes off like that it is for the bother of your coming that he gave the money to me for.
And who said this exactly?
The ex-president.
So what happened after that?
Said bye to each other as usual, and then I went home.
Do you recall who took you home that night?
Landing Sanya.
Did anything else happen that night?
That night when I left to go home? No, nothing happened.
When you went home, either that night or the next day, did you inform your parents of the proposal, the marriage proposal that the president had made to you?
I never did, because I never took it seriously and I never had interest in it. So I did not share that information with my mom or my dad. And I also know how my mom would react to an information like that.
So you didn't tell your parents. Did you tell anyone else about this?
No, my parents are the closest to me. If I did not tell them, I wouldn't tell anyone else.
So what happened in the days after that proposal?
The days after that is when it started to get a little bit weird. So I remember my friend Apsa calling me and telling me, it's so hard to reach you. Whenever I call you, there's always this gushing line, or it seems like it connects back to something and then connects right back to you. I felt like I was being followed. I didn't think at the time I was being followed because I was of any kind of threat. I just thought that what he had told me, he's trying to make sure that I am not in the premises of the Gambia College talking about President B said this, President B said he wants to marry me. I remember vividly an English teacher of mine at the college called Mr. Fane. in his office. I would sit there, and I would tell him to come out of the office and peep, because there's this car that I felt like was following me and was standing there the whole time. And when I come out to go home, this car moves as well. And I remember him telling me, I think you're just paranoid. I think you're paranoid. And I remember telling that Mr. Fane, something very weird happened between me and the president. I did not tell him that he has proposed to me, or he said that he would want to marry me. Did he mean that? I don't know. Did he say it as a way of making me feel important in that moment? I do not know. I could not gauge the sincerity of that statement. But the following days has been that it's either I was paranoid and I was all in my head, or it was actually happening.
What kind of vehicle was following you around? Can you describe it?
A black car.
Was there anything particular about it?
It wouldn't normally have a number plate. That is the only distinction to it.
Was it a big car or a small car?
It was a Jeep.
And do you by any chance remember the model of the car?
No.
So you said you pointed that out to the Mr. Fane?
Mr. Fane, yeah.
Mr. Fane. Where else did you see a vehicle like that following you around?
Most of my activities, because when I got up, I would go to the Gambia College, so it was between Brikama and Yundum. And I was going to, I remember judging drama debates at Nusrat High School for the PI Health group. Also, when I went to Alliance Franco to judge the Miss Fulbe, there was a Miss Fulbe pageantry that was happening, and I was part of the judges. So, but it was mostly around that. It's either I am going to mentor some of the young ones that I seniored in Nusrat, or I was between Alliance Franco, or but mostly at Nusrat and Gambia College and Yundum. Yeah.
So how many days after the president proposed marriage did you hear from either him or Jimbe or anyone else at State House?
So I did hear from Jimbe. After that happened in the last week of May, I think it was the beginning of June, Jimbe said that she wanted to show me something. Now this is after the proposal has been made. I went with Jimbe. Jimbe took me to one of the AU villas. I've never been there before. And we got off the car, and she pointed out a home that we got into. The gate was open. There was a monkey in one of the trees in the home. And then she said to me something around like, this will be your home. And I said, okay. And she said, this will be your home. It's very private, and a car. And I said, okay. But he said, so why are you not happy? And I told Jimbe that I told you and I told the president I do not want to get married. I would appreciate the home. I don't have an, if you give it to me, I will take it. If you give me the car too, I will take it. But that I need to get that on the circumstance of marrying, that is not something I want to do. And for the first time, Jimbe actually, not indirectly, not pretending not to be in the know-how, said to me and asked, what is wrong with you? And she said it in Wolof, Lan Mola Jot. Do you know how many people will kill to get this opportunity, right? And so she was a bit mad about that.
When the president made the marriage proposal, the evening that you were at State House, was anyone present at that time? Were Jimbe or King Papa present when the marriage proposal was made?
Jimbe had gone out earlier to get she said she was going to do something or she had an engagement of some sort, but she came back. When that conversation about the marriage was happening, Jimby was present. King Papa was not present.
But after that night, the first time that you had this conversation with her was when she took you on tour to see the AU Villa.
After that night, yes.
So after she reacted the way she did, basically asking what's wrong with you, what happened next?
She then said that Landing should take me home. And I got into the car. She got into the car that brought her back to Banjul. And for the first time again, Landing is saying something to me in regards to anything related to this scene. So Landing asked me, Yangi fine, like, are you all right? I said yes. Then Landing said to me, all I can tell you is to be very careful. Jimby is a very powerful person at the State House. That was all he said. I do not know what that statement meant or what he was trying to get to. But he did tell me to be careful and that Jimby is a very powerful person in the State House.
So up until that point, your understanding of the house and the car was that you would get that if you married the president?
Yes, it was not being given to me on that day. It was showing me that this is what is available.
What is possible if you
What
do
is
say
possible,
yes?
yeah.
After that, you went home. Did you inform anyone about what had happened that day?
No, I did not.
What did you do after that?
After that was when I decided to block Jimby's number. But she can always reach me with her no caller ID anyways. So I started to kind of avoid her calls. I remember on 2-3 occasions between this time after this happened, a day she called me and the phone was ringing. My mom was in my room. I told my mom, pick the phone. My mom said, why? I said, pick it and tell her that I am sick. Another time, I told my mom to pick up the phone and tell her that I was not around, that I had left the house. And my mom will always ask me, why are you avoiding Jimby's calls? And I will tell her, she likes inviting me to these events. I am tired of going to these events. That's why. Another time when she actually called, and I told her I was sick. This time around, she did not take it. She said, what's wrong with you? You've always been sick. You're always saying you're sick. I'm going to send Landing to your house to come and take you to the hospital to check what is wrong with you or to find you medication because you're always sick whenever I call you now. And I told her, no, I will be fine. I will just take medication. She insisted. Landing came to my house. She picked me up. We went to RVTH in Banjul. We went for an X-ray X-ray thing that happened. And I believe that happened because when I was telling her I was sick, I told her something about my chest. Again, this was not true. It was all excuses I was making up because I did not want to go for whatever she was calling me. Because at this point, I've already established what this is about. When we got there, there was an Indian doctor. I did not know him. I did not interact with him. Landon did not introduce me to him. Neither was he introduced to me. Then he ordered for us to go to whatever technician was responsible for scanning. I went in there. They took my blood pressure. They took me into the scanning room and they scanned my chest, which is the scan I gave you yesterday. And then I came out. So there were results. I have not seen the results of that report, of that X-ray scan. I just had the X-ray was given to me, but it's just an X-ray. There's no description of what happened or what the X-ray is actually saying. So was the results given to Landing and then Landing took them back to Jim B? I'm not sure, but the results were not given to me. I do not have them up to this date. But they gave me some medicine for indigestion and also for chest pain, and then I went home. Landing dropped me off home.
So am I right in understanding that this would have been in early June 2015?
Let's say.
At this point, Landing had already told you that Jimbe is a very powerful person at State House, according to what you said.
Right.
But you still went on to block her number and try to avoid her.
Right.
At that point in time, how did you feel about what was happening, and the fact that, from what you've said, you hadn't told anyone about it? So how did you feel at that point? What was going through your mind regarding the entire incident?
I thought in that moment is that I did have a choice, that if Jimby is calling me to come to this and I do not want to do it anymore, I do not want to come, because at this point we are no longer talking about any type of project. We are done with that. And if Jimby is going out of her way to even show me that anger on that day, to say what, like, who does that? What kind of person are you? It means that she's angry with me. And the whole vibe was not fine. And someone that she's walking with, who's a driver, is also telling me that she is powerful. So it was all just mixed up together. So in my own little 19-year-old head, the best thing I can do is cut out Jimby, mind my business, as long as I'm not doing anything bad, as long as I'm not mentioning anybody's name, I'm not out there to give any type of information, and I just wake up and go to school and come back, that I would be fine. That was a game plan that I assume that I've had written down, that everything is going to be fine and everything is going to be okay. And I'm going to keep giving excuses. Every time she calls me, I'm going to say I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I was not also calculating for how long could that go on for. But yes.
So after that, when was the next time that you saw Jimbe Jame or anyone else from State House?
It was before Ramadan. I'm not sure what date Ramadan was in 2015. But I did receive a call from Jimbe again, and she said that it's been a while, and that there is a Quran recitation at the State House, the normal gamma that we do have. And so I took my veil and my dress, and I remember asking her if the other girls are there. And then she said, yes, the other girls are there. So it's an official gathering, so it was okay to go, because this is not one of those that I'm going for a private meeting. And then she said Landing was coming to pick me up. And Landing did. And then we went to the State House. The first door opened as usual, and we passed. Yeah.
Do you remember around what time of the day that was?
For Agamo, I know it was late, so it should be around like 10 for me to get there by 12. So because it's a Gamo, so it's like a whole night thing, it wouldn't start earlier than, yeah, so he would have picked me up around 8, 9, 10, within that time frame.
So you arrived at State House very late at night. You went through the first gate, you said?
Right.
Can you tell us where you went?
So we passed the garden, and the garden was filled on that day with a lot of people were wearing white, ministers and other people that normally sit in the VIP are there. The president was not seated. I could not see him sitting there. And our car had to pass to go for me to be on the side or with the driver because the president is coming to take his seat. And if that is happening, cars are not allowed to loiter around there. People are not allowed to be walking around, or everybody just stands up and wait for him to come. So the car went to next to an office, very similar to the one that I went to with the girls the first time we came and we were waiting for the president to finish praying. So I was there, and then Jimby said hi to me, Danga Hibon, as in you get sick all the time, and that it has been a while and hope I am fine. We had that conversation, and we were sitting there, and the narrative was the president is taking a seat, and as soon as he finishes to take his seat, then I can come out and then join behind in the group, but I cannot walk around to come and take my seat whilst he's doing the same protocol, as Jimmy will call it. And then Jimby said that I and her should move to the next room because some people were coming to use the room that we were in, so we moved to the next room to wait for the president to come. And that's what we did. We moved to the next room. Jimby was there with me. She was on her phone, and then she decided that she was going to go get something, water. So Jimby left the room, and I was seated there. Now we are in the second room apart from where the waiting area is. And out of nowhere and so unexpectedly, the president walks into that same room from a door. Now, was he there before I got into that space? I don't know. Did he come from... I do not know the building enough to know where he had come from.
What kind of room was that?
So it's also a waiting area, but it has brown doors, like 3 of them. I do not know which one of them is an exit and which one of them is a bedroom. But I get to know that later that is a bedroom. But the other 2 doors, if they were exits or if they were bedrooms as well, I do not know that. So when he walked in, again, he wasn't all dressed like a ready-made dress as if he was going to take his seat. He wasn't wearing his full costume that he wears to go outside. You know, but you know, he's, I don't know if it was the redness of the eyes was of anger, if the redness of the eyes was something induced, I don't know, but all I know is that his eyes were very red. And that scared me for a second. But I greeted him and he didn't respond. And he said to me, not in sequence, so just so you note, there were so many things that were said in between here and during the whole thing, and some were said before some were not. I say them as I remember them, as some of them are like really stuck with me. I do not know what comes before what in a way, but there were words like, who do you think you are? And that he is the president and that he gets any woman that he wants. He pulled his hand to reach out to me, like to kind of grab me. But it was with the back of his hand. It's like if you want to like scare somebody but not really hit them, but with like that, and then held onto my arms here. And then he dragged me and opened that door that I was talking about, the brown door. And inside we were, as he pushed me on and then locked the door. Now, this is a small room. It has a bed which is not very high. It was white in the room, the couch, the pillows, the bed, the ceiling of the house, and there was a washroom there as well.
Just take your time. There's a bottle of water next to you in case
Right.
you want to drink something.
He said, let's see if you are a virgin. And swear to God, I was scared. Right? And I started to apologize, to say that I am sorry, I am so sorry, please don't do this, I am so sorry. Because he appeared very angry and I was apologizing. I don't know if I was apologizing for, I don't know what I was apologizing for. Is it because he's angry or what happened before that? But he held my face. He pulled his pants down and he rubbed his genitals in my face. More like hands on my head this way, but like pulling this way and rubbing. I was underneath. It's like I was right by his pelvis as he rubbed his genitals on my face. I had a dress on and a leggings underneath the dress. The dress was more like a abaya because it was gamo. He pulled my dress up and he was just saying things, and
When you're ready, just switch on the mic.
I keep saying he. I would say his name. So Yaya Jammeh decided to penetrate me, but before he did, he took out a needle from his pocket and he injected me on my arm. I'm not sure of what it is or what it was for. And unlike in the movies, when you're injected, you just don't fall immediately, depending on what it is that has been injected into you. Yaya Jammeh did not want sex with me or pleasure with me. What he wanted to do was to hurt me. What he wanted to do was to teach me a lesson. what he wanted to do was to manifest his ego. Just like many of us can't believe that a girl can say no, someone like Yaya Jammeh and in his position found it very disrespectful for a 19-year-old from not an elite background or not the daughter of a president to somehow gather some kind of audacity to say no to him. That he is a man probably who hasn't had so many no's. And my no wasn't because of a sense of understanding or I was better off, I wanted to. My no was just because I felt it was wrong. And I felt that it wasn't right. I was on the bed. The top part of my body is on the bed, and from my waist down was dangling on the ground. Yaya Jammeh penetrated me after doing the face rubs on my face and talking all the things that probably would arouse him, and somehow my begging and my pleading, or maybe my I am sorry, made him feel better about what was happening. I said stop. I was saying stop, please don't stop. My nose were very clear even as I pleaded and said that I was sorry. He wanted to see, and he said, let's see what is here, as he pushed his penis into me. With a pillow right on the bed and my face smooshed into the pillow. I was trying to wiggle. And mind you, as all of this is happening, I am hearing the Quranic recitations in the background. The Gamo people was going on. The imams were preaching outside. I could hear loud and clear, and so could he. The Sukula team were singing praises of the Quran, and all of that was going on because loudspeakers were being used. So it was loud, and you could hear it from the room as if we were part of the Gamo. Yaya Jammeh was sweating, and I don't know why, but he was sweating like a lot. My face smooshed into the bed, crying for help. When there was none. You know?
If you need a minute or two, we can take a short break.
Part of this is thinking or imagining that anybody thinks that is not true, because I feel up to this day every stretch of my muscle, every stretch. When he penetrated me, he seemed to have been looking for something. Whilst his head was on my back as I was smooshed in the pillow and he was standing on the floor with the rest of my body down, I saw him peeking and looking for something. He sodomized me. And what that means is he took his penis and he put it into my anus instead of my vagina. That's what sodomy is. Um, my muscles were hurting, and in that moment, and it wasn't it wasn't like he even wanted to take long, or it was just so all just being hurtful. All of it was just being hurtful the entire time. And whilst he was doing it, he was so comfortable with the fact that he has a great cover up, that this will never come out, especially in detail, and that no one would believe this. And he has a great cover of imams reading the Quran in the background. Who would have thought that that was happening inside? I felt unconscious at some point. I guess at this time, whatever was in my bloodstream or he injected me has gotten to me. Now, but before that, the voices started to fade away in my head. Even the screams that I was screaming, I could not hear my screams anymore, and I could not also hear most of the Quran recitation. It was all going in the background, like a shadow voice, in the background, until it kind of faded away. And I don't know how long I was laying there. I don't know what Yaya Jammeh did to me that whole period that I was laying there, what happened. But I did get up. I did wake up from that and feeling very disoriented, like I had like if you have a very long nap, like you slept whole day kind of, and you wake up and you're feeling a bit sick because you slept a little too much. That was the feeling that I was having, and I was dizzy. But before I lost consciousness or whatever happened in that moment, I did see him grab the same leggings that I was wearing that he pulled off and went to the washroom. Now, when I got up, there's a chair, a white chair too, in this room right next to the door, and he is leaning back in the chair in his shorts and with no shirt on him, and he was just leaning back, and this leggings that I saw him take was somehow under on the fan that was standing there, or probably it's not, but it's a black one, and it looks similar to my leggings. So when I got up, because I'm like moving around, and then I got up, my tears are kind of dried on my face. He told me to get out. I walked out of that door. I don't know, to his gamo, I guess, or wherever. Kim Papa, who always either holds my bag or my phone, he was there. But my bag and my phone this time around, I didn't get to give it to anyone or bring it in because I was dragged in. So my bag was left on the chair where I was waiting. And this King Papa that you call Aliu, Aliu something, you mentioned his name. He looked at me and said that this is our president and we will do anything to protect him. That's why I could not forget his face on any picture and at any moment. Grabbed my stuff, left. Jimby was right there at the door, again on her phone, pretending like nothing just didn't happen. Went with me, she didn't say a word, I didn't. all the way into the car as we exited the waiting area, and the black car landing was still there waiting. I got into the car and landing took me home. The entire trip from there to my home, landing didn't say a word to me. I didn't say a word to landing. I was in the back of the car, leaned on the window of the car, staring at the moonlight or whatever bright light was outside through the dark window, because they were tinted glasses. No one outside could see inside, but I could see outside. And I was leaned back there and tears rolling down my eyes the whole time until we got home. And I was numb, just numb. I wasn't like processing anything. It's just like I just watched a movie of some other person. We got home, Landon dropped me off. Nufana Nagjama never said anything or asked me what was going on or why I am quiet, because at least when he picks me up, sometimes he will ask, how are you, or how has it been? The other girls, we are going to go pick her. She's at the door. Do you want to text her and see if she's there? Something. But none of that happened that night. And then I got home, and my sister was the one who was awake. She opened the main gate for me, and I came in. I was holding my shoes in my hands. I was not wearing them. She opened the door. She was very sleepy. She woke up from her sleep, and then I walked into the room again. Now my mom, she's a light sleeper, so she heard the door, and she opened her bedroom door and peeped through the drape. And she said, oh, your bag is late. I said, yeah. She's like, gamo. So she understood, because it's a gamo, that time is all right to come home. My mom was half asleep. She really didn't look at me enough. She really was just trying to check who opened the door. And when she knew it was me and I was fine, she just went back to her room. And I wasn't also standing there to engage her, because I was rushing to my room and her door is right there. So I went into my room and then I locked my door. Now, the longest night of my life, right? In that moment, I haven't even processed anything, and I haven't even like understood what exactly happened. And I was saying to myself, this is the most powerful man in Gambia. You know, who am I for anybody to listen to believe to? And where do I say this? And when I say it, what am I expecting? What do I think is going to happen? And also, this did not happen. I was in so much denial. I went into the washroom. I took my my cloth, my washcloth, and I was in the washroom for like more than an hour, just washing and showering and washing and everything. My ears felt like, you know, when it is raining and you block your ear with your two hands, that whoosh noise that you hear. Everything was just blurry, like we were in another day or in another timeline. I showered, brushed off, washed off, went to my bed and laid down, and I was telling myself, this did not happen, this did not happen, it did not happen. But that is what happened on the night that Yaya Jammeh raped me, and that is how he did it.
What you've explained quite clearly is rape, so I'm not going to belabor the point by asking you additional questions just to get more information. You talked about the physical force he used. You talked about the fact that you were apologizing, trying to say no, trying to get him to stop. You talked about the fact that he then penetrated you in the anus. I don't know if he penetrated any other part of your body. You talked about what happened to your clothes. You talked about feeling pain in your body. And you also talked about the fact that he injected you with a needle and you don't know what was in that. You also talked about hearing the Quranic recitation. You talked about what happened after, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. But simply to ask you how you felt at that point when all of this was happening. And immediately after that, how you really felt.
I don't know. I don't really know up to this date. No amount of experience, no amount of resilience has taught me the right words to use to describe that moment. But I just lost a part of me, and it was just a feeling of lost, like someone died. And I think the perfect word to use, as Mandinkas will say, suno, sunutale, and just lost.
What does that mean, the Mandinka phrase?
It's like a sense of grief and a sense of loss of self. But I just now couldn't see my concept of who I thought I was just was very blurry. I wasn't sure of who I was anymore, or what my future hold, and the narrative I've been giving myself as to maybe who I was, and I think that that changed. I lost a part of Tufa.
What happened the next day?
I don't know. I know that for 3 days after that, I was really inside, and a lot wasn't happening because it's like in Ramadan, so people sleep until late and get up to go to the market. So not much was happening. But I spent the 3 days there, and my mom have knocked on my door several times, and I did let her in, but I was in the bed every time she came in, and that I was having menstrual cramps, which I mostly have, and I was not feeling well. So she didn't take much into it. And I remember when she left the room, I would lock my door and I will cry my heart out, and I will wipe my tears again and come out. I remember her complaining one day. She was outside. Tufa, don't get to see. You're always on this phone. I don't know what you kids, you stay in these rooms on this phone talking and talking, because she thought I was on my phone and I wasn't coming out. But also it blended in well because I was a very house person. I was in the room most of the times if I'm not outside. So for the next 3 days, I really spent inside the house trying to draft a plan in my head of how I am going to appear fine. Nothing happened. That's really what I was doing.
After those, 3 days or so, did you speak to anyone about what happened to you? No.
Even I wouldn't accept what happened, so I didn't tell anyone. Who was there to tell? My mom, I guess. And a mom is just a mother. If I had told my mom, again, I'm here trying to be protective of her and our family, I know my mother, she would not sit down and take it and be quiet. She works at the Ministry of Education. She will try to go tell either Auntie Tida or her boss and say, "Yay, this, you guys, that." And I know she would protest. I know she will not keep quiet. And that would have come with a lot of consequences. So I didn't tell her because I did not want her, I wanted to protect her in that space, and telling her was not, he couldn't beat Yaya Jammeh. What is he gonna do? Go to the police station and report Yaya Jammeh? And so I felt like she's as helpless as I am. And if telling her puts her in more harm way than good, I could not share that very important moment with her.
After the rape incident, did anyone from State House call you?
Yes, and I think this is when I actually started to think outside of the box, or to really reevaluate what this was about again. Just the sheer audacity of it all. Jimmy called me, and I wish you could see my face when I stared at that phone with so much amusement. And she said that there is an event that I'm supposed to go to. Jimmy did not talk about what last happened, or to ask me how I was feeling, or none of that. It was like business as usual, that nothing happened. So she just called me, "Hey, Nakam," and I was like, okay. And then she said there's an event that I'm supposed to go to, and I was just listening to her to explain this whole event, and she said someone is going to pick me up. This time around she didn't say landing. She said a name that I mentioned in the report, but I'm not sure of the pronunciation of that. So, but she said that someone was coming to pick me up, and I would come to this event. And the event was not on that day. It was supposed to be on another day, but she's just letting me know in advance so I can prepare for it. When I hung up, sorry?
Sorry, you said that when she called, she acted as though nothing had happened.
Right.
From your perspective, you believe that she knew what happened.
Yes.
Why?
Jimbi Jammeh brought me into the first house in the disguise of waiting for the president. Jimbi Jammeh moved me to the second house in the disguise of still waiting for the president. When Jimbi Jammeh somehow went to get water, that is when the president walked in. Jimbi couldn't have not come back there to look for me. When it was time to go home, when I stepped outside, Jimbi was there. So there was nothing that Jimbi didn't know about. Did Jimbi know the details as to the insults and the aggression of Yaya Jammeh in the room? I don't know. Did Jimbi see me crying and clearly not wanted? Yes. Did Jimbi hear me say time and time again, I do not want the marriage, neither the home or the car, right in her presence? So none of this was Jimbi being a witness or Jimbi being a standby. Jimbi was the framer, the one who made all of this accessible to him. If she had just let me go and sit in that crowd in that night, maybe it wouldn't happen. It was premeditated by her.
So after you hung up the phone, when she called and told you about a future event, What happened next?
I had a moment to myself, and I came to the realization to stop trying to paint and put a veil over what I think this is. It wasn't just going to go away. It wasn't. Until my no somehow becomes a yes and something that I play along with, this is going to continue to happen. Jimby is going to call me, he's going to send someone to pick me up, I would be taken, and whether I do want to have sex or not, it is going to happen, and in the most aggressive way, because that is what I have experienced from him. And me saying I'm not going to come, it's no longer going to work out. I am sick, I am busy, it's no longer going to work out. So I had two options. I either stay there and become everything that I never wanted to become a mistress to the president, to somehow subdue my nose. I'll be picked up and I'll be a sex slave to him. Or I leave everything that is so dear to me, or everything that I know, and to leave. And mind you that I've not left that country, this country, and it is all that I have known. I didn't have time to think about it. There was no master plan in that moment for me. All I know was that I could not longer be here and in this space. I woke up in the morning. I grabbed the basket to go to the market. Before I did that, I went to GT Bank. I took out $500. I remember calling my auntie in the UK, Marisaho. I told her that I want her to send me money, and it is very urgent. She sent me money through money transfer. Was it Western Union or a local transfer? And I picked up that money. And then I came back. And then I remember calling my mom. She's at work. And I told her, I will do the shopping today, that I will do the groceries today. And then I went on to do the groceries. From there, I grabbed a taxi. I went to the terminal in Banjul. I did not take a ferry. I had a hijab, a black one that hides all your face. And then I figured if I had taken a ferry, at this point from Yundum to Banjul is an hour. So if I'm being followed and monitored at this point, they would know that I'm no longer in Yundum, and getting on a ferry wasn't an option. I went to the fishermen, or the ones that have a smaller boat, the smaller boats, and I decided to use the smaller boats instead of the ferry, and I crossed to the other side of the border. And at this point, again, this is the hardest part. It is the border. I have to give in my paperwork, or I will be recognized, or if they're looking for me, that is the perfect place to be caught. But on my way, I called my mom, I remember, before I get to Banjul, and I told my mom that I am very, very sorry, and that you will not understand right now, but you would, and I will explain to you when I have the time to do so. And my mom was in a conference. She could hardly hear me. She's like, yeah, what? Did you do the groceries? I said, yes. But I do joke a lot, and I do play around a lot, especially with my mom. So she thought it was one of those jokes again. Instead of getting a normal car that crosses you over, I asked a fuller guy who was driving a truck with livestock cows in the back, and there were 3 spaces in the front. I chose, and I asked him if I could sit in the front. I had an emergency in Senegal. Someone is sick and I do not have money. And he said, if you don't mind sitting in between. And I was speaking fuller to him. And that is how I crossed the border into the other part of Senegal.
Prior to leaving the Gambia, you said you spoke to your aunt in the UK.
Right.
Did you speak to anyone else who lived abroad at the time?
In relations to this, I remember speaking to Ahmad Jite, who lives in Canada, and also worked for the Fatou network at the Fatou Soul at the time. And my conversation with Jite wasn't, I didn't tell him what happened. I remember asking him, what can one do if one wants to leave Gambia? And he asked me, is everything okay? I told him, yes, but I think it's not going to be okay. And Jita did not push or to get into details. But he told me, oh, if you get to Senegal, I know a few people, or I know someone there that you could talk to. Because even though my grandmother is from Senegal, I could not contact family or relatives in Senegal.
How did you know this Ahmed Jite?
Ahmed Jite was a family friend. He lived in Kitty and we lived in Brikama. He was a friend to my bigger sisters and he used to come there. And also he went to Nusrat, and he was a head boy at some times. So we did interact on that level as they will come to train us on NSGA programs and drama stuff. So that's how I knew Jite.
So apart from your aunt and Ahmed Jite, did you speak to anyone else who was living abroad at the time?
Yeah, I was speaking to someone I knew at the time.
Was it in relation to leaving the country?
No.
So you arrived in Senegal. Do you recall the date when you arrived in Senegal?
It should be the 23rd or 22nd of June. 22nd or 23rd.
You told us earlier that when you wanted to unlock your phone, you took it to a guy named Patrick Jaju at QCell.
Right.
After you called your mother using that phone, can you tell us what else happened in relation to that phone that you were using, as well as the SIM card?
Right. So when I already got to the border to cross into Senegal, I took out my SIM card already, but the phone is fine. I'm not going to get access to service whilst on my way to Senegal anyways. But what I realized it when I got to Senegal, which was in the middle of the night, I took a set class to Senegal. I'm assuming now in hindsight, back home, it has already been noted that I have been away for a day and almost a whole night. So my phone was blocked. So when I opened my phone, on the screen of my phone, it said, phone is reported stolen. Please call number 3 something something. And that number is Jimmy's personal number that was on it. So whatever happened, in order to get the ability to do that, you have to get back to the Apple ID or the iCloud or the setup of the phone to report that iPhone stolen. So I could not get access to that phone, the pictures on that phone, or some of the informations on that phone. Yeah.
We know that you currently live in Canada.
Right.
So can you just briefly tell us what happened in Senegal that then led to your travel to Canada?
Briefly?
Just briefly, yes.
Right. So when I got there, the first person that I contacted was Ibrahima Chongan, whose number was given to me by Ahmad Jite. I contacted Chongan, and Chongan told me there was someone he knew in Senegal who worked for the security service at the time, but it was very late. So when I called the guy, he was not available until the next day. This guy, whose name is Omar Top in Senegal, was the first person that I actually explained the whole scenario to. And I then went to Article 19 to Fatou in Article 19. I went to Amnesty International. I went to Trial International as well in Dakar. And then I met the head of police at the time through Omar Top, whom I also explained to. Now, what the head of police at the time related back to me was that as we were in the car, me, him, and Omar Top, was that the Gambia government has reported that I am missing. So they received a call from the office of the president telling them that I went missing, that I'm some teenage girl who went missing, and my mother is looking for me all over the place. So if they find me, let them return me back. The head of police reported back to the Minister of Interior at the time that I am not a missing child, I am not lost, I actually got violated by him, and that I am in Dakar. And that is what actually fast-paced my stay in Senegal, or me leaving for Canada. And through that, because they had to hasten the process, I was taken to UNCHR, where I also went over my case again with them of what happened. And UNCHR then, I think they will give the case or introduce it to the different countries like the UK and the US and Canada. And whoever thought it was a good case for them to give the person a protected person status or not. And Canada first responded. And then I met a caseworker from Canada, immigration caseworker. We went through my case again, just like all the informations here, with furniture, with relations, who is who, what did I do, what happened. We went through all of that, and they said I had to give them some time to do some investigations, and they will get back to me. And by June, July, and August 6th of 2015, before that, they got back to me that they have accepted my case. They think I am a legitimate person to give a protected person status. And then I was connected to IOM, which is the International Organization for Migrants. And then they did my paperwork, and I had flew back, and then I flew to Canada on the 6th of August. Now, within this span, as this was happening, I never could speak to my mom directly or my dad. And because I didn't want them to call, I don't want to call them and they will see a Senegal number or that it was me. But I did relate to my auntie in the UK, Marie, who had always told them that I was fine, that I'm okay, and also to tell them what to say in order for them not to be bothered, because they were going to the police, or is it the NIA, to report. They kept asking them where I was, what happened, where I was. And then I remember telling Auntie Marie to tell my sister and my mom to tell them that I just went to Senegal for business or something. It's not like they can know or catch me where I'm at, because I was actually in a very protected place. So they did that, and that kind of gave them some a sense of peace, because they were not bothering them anymore. And in the same time, whilst I was in Senegal, Fatou Faye, the Minister of Education at the time, is who connected the police to my mother to check about me, my inquiry, and where I was. My younger sister was taken, Panda, who was 15 or 16 years old at the time. My mom also had to go in to answer, and they kept answering the same questions. And luckily, because I've never really told them what happened, even if they had want to kill them or put a gun to their head, their answer was going to be the same, because they did not know either what was happening. But this is the summary of my time in Senegal and how I ended up in Canada.
So you said when your family members were taken, meaning your mom and your sister, This was the process of being questioned by the police and the NIA. Is that correct?
Yes.
You mentioned that at some point the Senegalese received information from the office of the president in the Gambia,
Right.
saying that you were missing.
A teenager was missing.
A teenager was missing. And then you said that entire thing hastened your departure from Dakar. What do you mean by that? Like, what actually hastened the departure?
Right. So because the call is being made that I am missing, and because it's a missing person, Senegal, of course, gave consent, or the officials who were responsible gave consent to, of course, if we find the missing teenager, we will send her back. But now that they have heard from me and my story and what has happened, they thought it was easier to get me out of the country quickly than to have that confrontation with Yaya Jammeh of, oh, we found her, but it's not what you were saying, she's actually violated, and all of that. So they do not want to have that confrontation, as they've already had this issue with Yaya Jammeh where he believed Senegal was keeping his refugees or people that did not agree with him. So I think that's what I mean when I say it kind of hastened the process.
So you spent less than 2 months in Senegal and then arrived in Canada in August 2015.
Yes.
Considering everything that you had been through, the rape incident, leaving your family, fleeing to Dakar, and then moving to Canada, can you tell us what impact this entire experience has had on you, as well as your family?
It is an overnight shift of my life. It is 1 minute I am a 19-year-old going to college in the Gambia. The next minute I am a refugee in Senegal who cannot talk to anybody that I love. The third is me finding myself in a world that I did not see coming, and all by myself, and having to figure it all out quickly. And I couldn't, I had to isolate myself because there's already rumors going on about, oh, the president wanted to marry her and then she ran, and because that was a more comfortable conversation to have. And of course, because I never told anyone that I've been raped. In isolation completely, I did not integrate into the Gambian community or talk to anyone. I wasn't seeing any Gambian family for any type of moral, physical, or just social life. I had to live and adopt this whole other social norm. Whilst my parents at home had to deal with the consequences of something they haven't even fully understood yet. They're getting questioned. They're not sure if I am fine. They do not understand why I even left. And even after making it to Canada, to just even tell my mom that this is why I left was so hard. And I was so desperate. I was so alone, and I felt so lost as to what to do next, what not to do next. I felt a gap and a distance between me and my mother, because we will talk about things and we will talk about it roughly, but there was this thing that was always holding me back and was holding her back. She wanted to ask some questions, but she was very scared what the answers would be. So it gapped our relationship for a while. I felt very distant because there was this part of me that I do not want to accidentally come out of my mouth. Whilst I was there, I am receiving messages from the beauty pageants that I have competed with, telling me, God will reward you for your wickedness, because me running away on lies and something they do not understand if happens or not somehow jeopardizes their chances of scholarship or whatever it was that they were supposed to have. Me running away kind of tarnishes Jamme's image, and he's now mad at the whole group. So now the other girls have to pay for the consequences of me running away. Now, I am sitting there with that guilt, but I cannot also say that this is why I ran away. I didn't just get up. I didn't have a master plan. I ran away is because I was being used and I was being abused, and I could not let that continue to happen. My dad, in fact, a bigger distance because he's a man and is a fuller culture, and they were very proud of me and my potential and what I could have become, but I could not see that part of me, even though I was in a free world where all the opportunities were in front of me. It took me a long time to find myself.
You said the other winners of the pageant contacted you.
Right.
How were they able to get your contact information?
On Messenger, actually, Facebook Messenger.
On Facebook Messenger.
Right.
You talked about the process that you went through, and maybe you can tell us whether you received any counseling while you were in Canada, and if yes, maybe tell us the process that then led you to this moment this year where you told your story in June, and then you're coming here now to tell the Gambian people in the context of the TRC.
Right. I did receive a lot of counseling. I mean, I cannot imagine. I don't think I would be able to do this if I was still in the Gambia. I doubt 100% that I will be able to do it. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of redefining myself. I was sifting from counselor to counselor, but it was offered to me. The first year when I lived in a shelter, a refugee shelter for that 1 year, there was a counselor there, but a general counselor. But then when I was able to move out of the shelter, then I had another counselor as well. But it's just being a whole redefining of who I think I am. I had to go deep down into my childhood. I had to go deep down into the pageant towards it, all that I had trauma with. It was a very painful process, but it was a process that did not give me back the part of me that I lost, but it gave me back a new part of what I can be. Being a fuller girl, a very proud one for that matter, from a Wolof mother and a fuller father. It was an identity crisis, talking about what happened to me in comparison to what it is that we used to say whether a woman has a value or doesn't have a value, and knowing the culture that I came from. So I got to a point that I could tell my therapist everything, that I was allowed to break down. I was allowed to go through the phase of being depressed and not wanting to talk to anybody, taking on more jobs, like doing 4 jobs in a day from one shift to another, because I do not want to be home. Because when I'm home, I have to think about this and I have to process it. So I'm becoming a work junkie, overworking myself. Waking up some days and not wanting to be here. But then
I have to keep up this persona that people wanted, you know, that I am fine. And while sitting there, people are speculating all sorts of things, and I can't come out. I can't say, oh, not this happened, not that happened. No, I was just letting all the stories flow around, and that is affecting my mother, because even though I am in Canada and getting this counseling, she's here within this culture. And for me to come out, I am saying that I'm going to make my mom and my dad and my family relieve this again. I am putting them in the front of the world, exposing them to insults and doubts, to question their racing abilities, making them catch up with a society that might not catch up with them in their lifetime. That is the burden I have put on them. But I came to the fact and the conclusion that I can still be a fuller girl. I can still be a Gambian. Yaya Jammeh is not more Gambian than me. He's not more cultured than I am. To allow my identity to be taken away from me because I feel like my story does not fit in it was something I could not live with for the rest of my life. So I had to redefine who I was. That is to accept my story, and not just to accept it, but to tell my story in as crazy as it might sound, in this culture and in this space, and to take whatever backlash comes with it, so that the next person and the other people that come will be getting lesser and lesser of a backlash, and that it becomes okay, and that you can be powerful, you can move on with your life, you can be educated, you can be broken and then build up, you can be depressed some days and some days not, but it is okay, and it doesn't make you less of a Fuller, a Mandinka, a Jola, or any of our tribes that makes us Gambian.
Ms. Jallow, thank you very much for answering all my questions. I have come to the end. Mr. Chairman, I hand over to the commissioners for any additional questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Council. And thank you very much, Ms. Fatou Jallow, for your testimony. Very lucid and articulate. Truly sorry again to you for the suffering that you endured. Before I say anything, I believe you had indicated that, or stated that the sexual assault on you by former President Yahya Jammeh took place at State House. Is that correct?
Yes.
Indeed. Incredible. 2 days in a row, we heard here Commander of State House Guards raping a young, vulnerable woman in the State House, in his office. Today, we hear that the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the Republic of the Gambia raped a young and vulnerable woman in a State House. This is just not assault on these young, vulnerable women. It was an assault on the Gambia as a whole, because it's the National House of the Gambia that was used as a venue for the commission of these heinous crimes. We're truly sorry about that you had to endure this. And the assault is not just on the two of you that we have heard here in State House, but also on the entire country. You cannot use the National House of the Gambia as a house for rape by the highest officers of the state. Truly sorry what you had gone through again. Commissioners, if you have any questions, please indicate. If not, oh, please go ahead, my Deputy Chief. Deputy Chair. Chief.
Thank you very much, Toufan. I just wanted to know about your younger sister. Where is she now?
She's here in the Gambia and also in the audience, yeah.
When she was held in custody, I hope she didn't undergo any torture or whatever?
No, she didn't. It was more verbal, but nobody touched her.
Nobody touched her. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Jones, please.
Thank you, Ms. Jallow, for sharing your testimony with us. Just one question regarding the other girls that you were with, that is your batch. Whilst you were being invited to State House and receiving what you believed was a gift for being the winner of the competition or of the scholarship pageant, do you know at any point, or did you speak to any of the other girls, or did you hear rumors here and there that they were also being invited and receiving gifts as well?
Right. I never heard of it because we never talk about it as a group, and I've never heard the rumors either. And we were not that much close. So we will go to public events, but when we disperse, we are not as close to a point that we'll be going to each other's home or spending more time outside of the events that we were having together. So none of the girls ever reported that to me, and I did not hear that too.
Okay, so as far as you know, you were probably the only girl in your batch in 2014.
As far as I know, to my knowledge and with my experience, unless another girl wants to, maybe, yeah. But
okay, this is a question that I posed yesterday to Tida Jatta,
right.
Madam Tida Jatta, representing the ministry, to ask whether any formal investigation was instituted to find out the magnitude or veracity of some of the rumors that were ongoing about the girls. And I know the Deputy Lead Counsel asked the question earlier, regarding you speaking out, and you explained some of the factors hindering you speaking out at the time, including your mother. In your final remarks, it would be very good if you could also make recommendations, not just to girls, but also to boys who are also facing such challenges and might find themselves in such situations and might not want to speak out. So it would be very good if you can speak out as an ambassador to a lot of them. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Ms. Jallow, you may... Oh, Imam C, you have the floor, please.
Farimata Jallow a jarama jof.
Jarama Imam.
Min beltanima am e tampere tampuɗa nde to immiɗa to garɗa ta ala ko adduma sowona laɓɓin ko hoorema.
Jarama.
Interpretation.
Imam said they are very happy for her. The sufferings you encountered, with all that, you decided to come and reveal your story. The sufferings you encountered, with all that, you decided to keep it as a secret. Even your parents, you decided to hide the story from them. That's all because of you had a good mind. This is because of you don't want to create problems for them. But on that, we beg you, we appeal to you to forgive. Jimbe, is she married or not?
Joni ni mo equitorial Guinea ton kanko ya jambe yaduno.
Right now, Jimbe is in Equatorial Guinea, and she left the Gambia with Yaya Jammeh, and that's where she is up to date.
Gilamo Gambia ga mi anda mo hebugol gorko.
When she was in the Gambia here, I didn't hear that she had got married to anybody.
Kono de baldeni men nana wanda mo hebi modi wonto Sweden.
But between these few days, we heard that she is married to somebody who is in Sweden.
Ko dum mi andi ton.
That's all what I know.
Jarama.
Thank you.
Jarama Imam C. Before you proceed to make your final remarks, if you have any, Ms. Jallow, can you just clarify, after the president assaulted you sexually at State House, did he go down to join the Gamo? If you have any idea.
Yes.
He did?
Yes.
Please proceed with your final remarks.
Thanks. The interpreters, I would like to go on with my last statement, half of it in Mandinka and half of it in English, if that's okay.
If you can just allow for a few seconds, I'll give you an indication shortly. Yes, you may proceed. Thank you.
Mbal kontona mbal jaila mbal for commissioner ko ala baraka bake.
I hereby extend my sincerest regards to the commissioners, and I'm also thanking them.
Mbe Gambian ol fanang tank la bake ye nying TRRC nyimmin londi.
My thanks to the Gambian people too for setting up something like this TRRC.
Bayring Gambian ol letamu TRRC.
Because the TRRC belongs to the Gambians.
Ngalone nying kacha sifa mandalala.
I know that I'm not used to this type of speeches.
Andung ngalone ko fanang amanke mo kenseng wala mo kunkiling le ye nyapinkang. And
I know that also it is not like it is a single person who raped me.
Bankola manso wala yake.
It is the head of state who did it to me.
And
I know that to believe that is very difficult for some people. And I know that a lot of people will find it difficult to believe this, and some people will also think how to make it easy for them. If you are a female, and you live in a culture whereby it is believed that women should be quiet, and it is a type of culture whereby even if the woman is going to die, she should keep quiet. It's a culture whereby they have to keep secrets. I was born in that culture. That's the culture I come from, and that's the culture where I grew up. And I understand that very well. My mom is within that same culture. My father is within the same culture. But the country goes to a position whereby my mother and father, they go to the garden. They are selling. They are trying day and night to educate us. That education should bear fruit.
amanke kom mbe searing office to wala nga karawasol dum.
It's not like that I'm sitting in an office wearing suits.
Bari fana waya tara na karango.
But also our education
abatinda la nga fengol faling mfamani mbamalie
should make us try and change a lot of things for our parents.
Mi yalon ko ngala na ko mbamal ni mfamal tambitala.
Whereby we know where our parents went through.
Manya nakasondoro nga foko mfanambe wale sambala bairing adolemu.
We shouldn't say that that's what we are going to do because it's culture.
Ada kuruma bijele?
There is a very bad culture. There are bad cultures.
Ada beto fanam bijele.
There are good cultures existing.
If
you are thinking like your great-great-grandparents, how they were thinking, then we will be here today burying our children. Or we will be worshipping idols. Because this is what our great-great-grandparents were doing. But what has happened? How the nation goes, people said, no. Let's look at it again. Let's change things. What is not good, let's try to do away with that. Let's try and install what is good and let's make it big. But to change that is always very difficult. If you find somebody sitting and they are holding to one single culture, you come a small child, you want to fight against that culture, they will fight you too. They will insult you. They can approach you by any way. But I think, however strong that culture is, this culture that we are following, the culture of keeping things secret, we all should agree that that culture is not good. Our girls, our boys, there are people, powerful people in the country doing wrong things to those children. They are forcing themselves on these children. They are telling or doing things to these children, things that these children should not know at that tender age. And now you are telling those people to keep quiet on those things because we want to keep secrets. We don't want to disgrace the family. Why? The reason is that why the person who committed this grave sin is not ashamed of himself. Why is his family not ashamed of it? The reason why I came out, I want all of us to know that even if we close our eyes, we pretend to be blind, we take the blinds and throw it on the bed, we pretend to be ignorant of what's going on. We know what's going on. In the offices, at the madrasas, powerful people in the military, everywhere, even in the market. That thinking, to think that If somebody has more money than you,
walla palaso sototi
or his position is higher than yours,
walla bayri ngai minti kalamadi dinni wala le dorong
or he has given sweets to children,
walla muso
or a woman,
walla sunkuto
or a girl,
wala ya tinnate right soto
this is why he has the right
ka fam force o kan
to force himself on that child or on that woman.
wo society la sonta wala
It is that society who agreed to those bad things.
ntolle ya tinna wo moli ya miracle
It is because of us. Those people thought that
ningake
when we do it,
ita fem fola
they will not say anything.
iba fola dinni ngo nyimbe wuli yalla
They will say that the child is telling lies.
muso nyimbe wuli yalla
The woman is telling
iba
lies.
fola ajibi akungo jatale
They will say, look at her.
Hani
He's a
muso.
strong-headed person.
hana kungo jata ko bero
Even if that person is stubborn like a stone,
hana idin kemele soto
even if he has 100 children,
woman right di hani mola
that gives nobody any right
ya muso balo ma
to touch the woman
ya balo kuo fo
or to talk about
wala
her,
ya lanyo ya watara man la fala
to force her or to rape her when she doesn't like it.
So I'll get into some part of English now. The main disguise of the July 22nd pageant was women empowerment. That was very emphasized. That was very much in the forefront of all the ads. To me, it has been an awakening as a woman, and I hope that it is an awakening to other women as well. For 22 years in this country, we have been under the disguise of women empowerment and empowerment of all sorts. And I think women of the Gambia have endured more when it comes to ridicule, when it comes to disrespect, and when it comes to parading something in a way that we serve as a token instead of actual members of the society. We have not been taken seriously. Our self-worth has been measured based on how great of yai campaigns we are, how great we clap our hands for political leaders and politicians and people in power. We have been given a token. For example, we have been given a vice president who is a female. Even though she might have been a symbol, she might have been placed there to satisfy that narrative of women empowerment, you go deeper into the issues and you realize that that female that was put there was not actually having any direct effect on decision making. There was no actual power given to her to make actual changes in direct lives of women. We were told to come on stages to perform in the names of scholarships that some of us did not get. So, mind you, there are girls that did get their scholarships, and I am happy for them. I am glad that they did get to have that, because that is the reason why we did it in the first place. I will not take their stories away from them. You got your scholarship, you went and studied. Yeah, Jambe maintained a father figure with you. That is all great. I would never deny that. But that doesn't mean it was the same for me. And you could tell your story and accept that nothing happened to you without taking away what is mine. And mine is something happened to me. And I know that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, mentioning Yajambe's name, mentioning rape, and mentioning the exact things that happened to me, because it's something that we do not do or have never seen before. And I know most people are not, they do not have issue with the story or what happened. They have an issue with what I represent. They have an issue with a survivor who is a woman and who is owning her truth. That makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and I get that. But it's okay to be uncomfortable as a society before we will be able to sift anything around. And from when I came in June up to now, I haven't accused any political party of rape. I accused a man of rape who happened to be the president of this country. If anybody wants to own that on his behalf, that is okay. But I accused Yaya Jammeh of rape. And I think what we should ask ourselves is, when women do come out to speak, especially women that has been on this TRRC, it's okay to have questions and it's okay to have doubts and to also give benefit of the doubt. But maybe what a lot of people should ask themselves to check in their own internal biases or what makes them uncomfortable is to ask themselves why it is so hard to give the woman that has put in everything on the line to come in front of the world to expose her family and herself and her identity, because it is reshaped. It is harder to give her the benefit of the doubt than to give to the man who is accused, who hasn't said a word, hasn't defended themselves, hasn't even given you a story. But it is more comforting to somehow give the benefit of the doubt to the silent, unknown, unspoken man than to do to a woman who spends hours and hours explaining her story over and over and over again. I think that begs the question of checking what our biases are. I am grateful for the women that have come forward. I am grateful for the women that continue to speak their truth. And I hope that the TRRC, as we have seen, has taken seriously the issue of gender-based violence. That is also a very essential part of what the end result of this is, what the recommendations would be for us as we head into our next chapter as a country. It will be unfortunate, it would have been very unfortunate to move on to the next chapter of this country without addressing the abuse that has been done to women over and over again. When it comes to recommendations, really, I think as a country and an institution and a government, to be very clear about projects that are being put forward, to have actual paperwork of what is expected, what is supposed to be done, and who does what, instead of being a vague people who run our institutions like we run our homes and in the markets, where we'll just say, kare mune, he said, she said, do this, go to that one, and don't go to that one. To have it more systematic in a way that it is publicized, the information, on any project, especially if it involves vulnerable people. Also, it will be a great initiative to include social work in our college and our universities. They are perpetrators, they are survivors, they are victims. In between all of that, there is a gap, a significant gap of help and people that will listen and care and know and have a huge, great human resource to not have a nation that is half traumatized, half battered, and no one really has any source of professional support or help or believe and trust in confidentiality. Knowing that walking to a police station does not solve your problem makes that police station just a building with people in it. I think building that capacity from the Gambia College to the university will help as we graduate social workers and case workers and people that will actually contribute to the human resource of this country. That being said, I think this is as much as I have right now. And I know usually when we are done speaking, we do say that I am sorry if I offend anybody. Well, I know who this offends. It offends Yaya Jammeh. It offends men like Yaya Jammeh. It offends men who want to sympathize with perpetrators. And to those people, I am not sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Jallow, for your testimony, and we really appreciate your coming to participate in our proceedings. this brings us to the end of the 8th. Yeah, I'll get to her. Yeah, just give me a second. To the end of the 8th session. Sorry, the 9th, yes. 9th session of our public proceedings. Council, you have a procedural point to raise?
It is indeed a procedural one.
Thank you.
I wanted to tender into evidence the aid memoir that Ms. Jallow was using to help her with the dates. So it's the photographs that she was looking through to help her plot events, and that would be as Exhibit 0096, with your permission, of course.
Request granted. Aid memoirs, great contributors to dossiers. So your request is granted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one thing. So the Toufan Foundation is having a women's convening on sexual assault on the 12th of November, and so everybody can either check in or check our website, and all women are invited. It is a forum for West African organizations that are fighting sexual violence to come together to discuss terms and policies we have currently. So everyone is invited. Yeah.
Thank you very much. As I was saying, this brings us to the end of the 9th session, the 3-week session. We will resume our public hearings in slightly different format that the Executive Secretary would just try to clarify that on the 11th of November. In the meantime, the Commission is not going out of business. We are continuing our work in committees and also outreach programs. Executive Secretary, can you clarify what the format of the 11th session is likely to be? And then Council, later on, if you have something to add on to it, you can go ahead and do it. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Toufan and the family, for coming to help us in this important work. Our next session will be on the witch hunts. You all know about the witch hunts, right? Of 2009. It will start on November 11th, and it will include having regional hearings. So unlike the sessions that we've had so far, this is going to be a 4-week session because of the extent of the violations that will be examined. So week 1 of the 10th session will start on November 11, and it will continue until November 14. Now, that session will be held here, inside the hearing hall. So it's not going to be held outside. It will be here, just like the normal session of hearings. And it will include witnesses from the greater Banjul area. Now, week 2 of session 10 will run from November 18 to 21. And it will be a hearing on witch hunts in Jambur. Jambur, of course, is in the West Coast region. And week 3 of session 10 runs from the 25th to the 28th of November. And it will include witch hunting hearings in Fonyi. Now, for now, we're thinking that the hearings will be held either in Sintet or in Sibanor or some other place. So we have a team, we have a task force of the Secretariat that is working on the logistics. Then ordinarily, the session would have ended on November 28th, but like I said, it is going to be a 4-week session. So week 4 of session 10 will run from December 2nd to December 5th, and it will be on witch hunting in SL, like the North Bank region. So essentially, that would be what will happen between November 11th and December 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma, for that program information. Council, you have something to add on to the substance of what this program information is about.
I have nothing to
on
say.
witch hunting.
I have nothing to say.
Nothing to add on to those ones. Fine. The program information, as I said, is the one that's just been given to you. It's a slightly different format, so I wanted them to just explain that to you. So we will see you November 11th, and we will continue our work in the committees and the outreach programs. Thank you all very much. Meeting is adjourned.